Welcome to the Our Father Stories podcast, where we share stories of ordinary people experiencing the kingdom of God in everyday life. I'm Nate Paraguay, one of the pastors here at Our Father Lutheran Church. You're live in the studio.
Yeah.
We're on video all season 3.
Season 3.
Hey, nice work.
Congratulations.
Pastor Micah Steiner, co-host.
Hey.
How are you?
I'd say for the beginning of season 3, I'm great.
Mm-hmm.
I might run out of here in any moment.
Uh-oh.
I had an interesting food experience last night.
Tell me.
Well,
I think we all want to know. We're all leaning in right now.
This is a very downhill moment to our podcast to start off season 3. I got this box shipped to me, and because I don't know how to eat healthy, so I have to buy it, and people tell me what to do, and I just fix these ingredients. Well, yesterday they sent shrimp. I don't eat a lot of shrimp, and so I've never prepared it, and it said in the directions, cook it for 4 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah, short. It's easy.
Yeah, but I was looking at the wrong directions, and I thought it was 2 minutes, but that was the thing before it. So I just kind of flipped it a few times, and it looked done to me. I don't know. So I eat the thing. It was actually really good, which was, I know.
Good for you.
I'm growing.
Yeah.
I'm growing. But then this morning I woke up, and I've had some interesting things in my stomach. I think I maybe undercooked it.
Okay.
Am I going to die?
Okay.
This is a new experience for me.
All right.
Will I make it?
I don't know. Well, I think our guest is going to hope that you do.
It could be bad.
We're joined today in this episode by Reilly Saline, 19 years old, college sophomore, has spent the last 4 years or so with her mom and her sister as members here at our church, and is here to talk to us about her journey, kind of being an athlete and attending Lutheran high school, and how significant that experience was for her and the people who made a difference, and thinking that her life was headed one way vocationally, and a phrase that she's used with us called pulling a Jonah, and kind of running from something that she knew God was calling to her to all along. And so her journey to enter a church work vocation, she's leaving very soon to start her sophomore year. So you're going to hear about her story, the things she learned along the way. And so whether you're watching this as a college student, as a parent of a kid, a grandparent, there's something in here. I want you to be listening for the ways that Reilly talked about people in her life who encouraged her and said something about her that she didn't see in herself.
Yeah. And really I would powerful. Like you to listen to how she gives us the definition of several millennial Gen Z words.
You're going to get that
Nate and I don't know.
Yeah. You're also going to get Micah really break down how to break a horse. You were really dialed in on that part.
I know. Maybe people don't know. We actually filmed the episode before we do the intro, and you're going to be impressed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Zero cringe.
I didn't get a chance to call you out then, but I'm glad I can do it right now in the intro.
What were you doing? I was facing this way. Were you just making fun of me?
I was waiting for the moment. Yeah, but I have it right now. It was really good. So that's all in this episode, and how to stand firm, whether you're in a professional vocation that is a church work one or not, and whether you're a college student or not. There's something in this episode for you as we kick off season 3, episode 1 of the Stories podcast. Let's take a listen to Reilly's story now.
My name is Reilly Saline. I have been at Our Father for 4 years, and then I live in Highlands Ridge. Yeah. So I've been an athlete pretty much all my life because my mom enrolled me in gymnastics when I was 2.5 because she saw me standing on something and was like, she's got to learn how to fall. So I did competitive gymnastics for, I want to say 13 years. And then now I do track, and I've been doing track since middle of high school up till now. Yep.
But specifically pole vault.
Pole vault, yes.
What in the world got you into pole vault?
So when I was still in gymnastics and my sister was still in high school track, her coaches knew about me and was like, hey, if she ever quits gymnastics, how about she come pole vault for us? And so I was like, all right, I'm down,
Wait, so is that a correlation? They look for people who are good at what? Because of your tumbling ability or?
So it's really common for pole vaulters to be former gymnasts just because they are used to, doing stuff that other people aren't generally comfortable doing,
jumping in the air, 18 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, and the coach was like, we like gymnasts. They're not afraid to be upside down and stuff. So
Huh.
it's like, all right, cool,
What was your PR in high school?
Oh, not that good, but it was 8-8, I think, yeah. And
Is
then
that I don't know if that's good or
it's okay for high school. It's not the greatest, but it could be worse, I guess. But like, as of now, my PR is 9.5, so
Sweet.
it's a little better.
Sweet.
That's about 9 feet taller than I could pole vault, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Did you see those little videos during the Olympics that were like what normal people would be doing if like they were doing this sport?
Oh, yeah.
There's like someone like high jumping, but like just jumping onto their bed or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those
Yeah,
are funny.
I think the Olympics was quite funny this year, but really cool too.
I didn't see the female winner of the pole vault, but I did see the dudes and that guy from Sweden who's
Yeah,
really from
Mondo.
America. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Was it 20 some feet?
Yeah.
That's bananas.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And he still had room to go, it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not doing that ever.
You ran track, right?
I did.
You were-
Yeah. 400, 800 though.
Mm,
No jumps. This boy, he can't jump.
that's why I use a pole.
That's right.
So you were telling me that you were a high school athlete, and before that, of course, as you're saying, but then had like a series of injuries. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so there is it started pretty much way before high school. And there was a lot of things going into, why 13 years ended at 13 years of gymnastics. And so my first big injury was a dislocation of my elbow. And that was 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. And then I kid you not a week after I like fully recovered from my elbow, I got the news that I had a tumor in my leg that had to be removed. And I was like, oh, great.
Oh my goodness.
So,
I remember that it was a tumor.
mhm.
What cancerous or no?
No cancer,
Okay.
it's not. Think I am very blessed for that. But so I had to get that removed, and then during that whole recovery, I sprained my ankles a couple times in between, and then it was about a year, and I got news that I had relapsed and the tumor had come back. And at that point, I was like, this is just too much physically. Like, my body is like hurting all the time. And my mental state, emotional state was not good either. So I just decided, I think God is shutting the door on this, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. So.
And on this, you mean running or athletics?
For gymnastics.
Okay.
And then, so that's when I started track in high school.
Can I ask you about that first?
Yeah.
You had a tumor, like was it in your bones?
Yeah. So it's called the medical term is fibrous dysplasia. So basically, what it is the bone just kind of disintegrates from the inside out. And what they had to do is go in and like scrape all that disintegrated bone out and all of the tumor, and then replace it with like bone graft. So to encourage the bone to regrow and stuff. So.
And is it doing that now? Is it regrowing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My last appointment was really great. The bone like is super developed and starting to mature, which is what they want to see. But that wasn't after a third surgery in my junior year. So.
Well, I want to go back to that because I think that's when you started hanging out with us at Our Father and coming to youth group. And that's when I remember first meeting you was some surgery that you were facing.
Yeah.
What was it like maybe spiritually or just emotionally having to say goodbye to something you've done for 13 years? You just said it now as if it's like, no big deal. God closed the door. Was that really your attitude or were you struggling with that?
Well, it had been kind of, to be honest, a long time in the making, I guess. COVID hit and it made it really hard on gym hours and what we had to do. And then my mental state just got hard. And
What does that mean?
like,
Tell me about that.
yeah, so, being injured, kind of you had to recover from that, and it takes time. Um, and then with gymnastics, you're doing all these like crazy flips and everything. So that's some mental stress. My One of my coaches always said gymnastics was like 90% mental and 10% physical. So there's a lot
So there's
of
hope for us, Micah.
there's a lot of stress, trying to get ready for the next season while still trying to recover. And then every time I had a new injury or a sprain, I would just have to start that recovery process all over again and think about what I had to catch up on when I could do things. So I think all of that just kind of built up. And then I remember like one day I was in the car coming home from practice, and I was like, I turned to my mom and I was like, I think I'm ready to let this go. And she's like, okay. It was hard on her.
It's
too,
different
so.
though. You're different in a good way. This is a compliment, I promise. A lot of teenagers, a lot of young people, this is a life altering scenario where your dreams or your hopes are not being realized. And I feel, and myself included, I look at things I've experienced in my life. My first reaction is to lament and feel bad for myself, or not necessarily be mad at God, but question, why is this happening? Did you ever have those moments or no?
I think like initially it was kind of hard, to be like, oh, I'm not going to see these people every day or like for 20 hours a week, or oh, I'm not going to be doing these things. But at the same time, it was kind of freeing, because when you're spending 20 hours in the gym, that means you go to school in the morning throughout the day, and then you go to practice, and then you come home, eat dinner, homework, sleep, rinse and repeat. So, I actually I had a life outside of the gym for once, and I was like, wow, this is weird.
It's kind of nice.
But yeah, I would say it was a strange transition, for sure.
I just have always known you since we go back a bit. I've always known you to be a very strong person of faith, and maybe if it's internal, I think have a good job of just putting on a positive attitude and rolling with the punches. So that's encouraging, and I hope people hear that. There is a way that you can trust God through these moments.
Yeah, I usually I think my positivity comes from the fact of I've given this situation. There's two ways I could look at it. I could be sad about it and regret everything, and I could have done this, I could have done that. This person should have done this person should have done that, and just stew in that, oh, what if, Or I could just be like, okay, this is what I got, Here's the things that taught me. I probably wouldn't be the person I am today without it, and, move on. So.
Do you have that attitude, Nate? I'm just curious.
Always. Of course. Every day.
Is that
It's hard.
Is that your faith? Where did that come from? Is that a family trait?
I honestly don't know where it comes from. I just know I don't really like being around people who complain 24/7. It gets annoying. So
You must never go on Twitter.
I do have Twitter, but I am not on it very much. No, I am on Instagram, but most of my social medias are just silly. So.
For you, new, it's called X now.
Oh, sorry, X.
Yeah.
Once again.
Formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a serious question. We've said this. You're 20 years old or 19 years old. So you're young.
Yeah.
Okay. We like to play a game on the podcast called "What Does It Mean?"
Okay.
I'm going to ask you. We're going to ask you a series of questions of words that this culture uses.
Okay.
We would like you to give us a definition for our viewers who maybe tend to trend a little older in age than 19. The first one is Riz.
Riz, short for charisma. It's if you're flirting with someone or trying to woo someone and you're really good at it.
Wow.
So that's having like good riz.
So wait, so if someone would say you're the Rizzler, that's a compliment. But if you're married, you don't want to be a Rizzler unless you're
Unless you're rizzing your wife.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if we can say that on this, but we'll see. Okay, Riz. Cringe.
Cringe is like, oh, it's like if you do something awkward, especially in public,
Mhm.
and it could be embarrassing, maybe not for the person who's doing it, but for the people around them,
Okay.
or like a silly meme that's not really funny, that's cringy.
Okay.
Can you
So
use that in a sentence?
yeah.
Oh, like, I don't.
Pastor Nate is so cringy right now.
I guess I don't know.
Wait, like put her
I
on the
don't-
spot.
No. Oh no.
Somebody called me.
Like dad jokes.
Yeah,
Some are cringy.
exactly. I get
there
called
you go.
cringy all the time
Yeah.
by Madison and her friends.
Okay.
It's cringe. I take it as a badge of honor.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
because I
mean-
have aura. What's that? You know that one?
I mean, I've heard of like negative aura points is where you do something like cringy.
Except,
Or-
what if I was the alpha aura?
I mean, you might think it.
Fire.
Fire is like, oh, awesome, or like that's good. Like if you're saying like, oh, your coffee is so fire, that's awesome. It's good, you
This
know.
podcast is obviously fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly. Okay, thank you. That was just scratch that itch.
hmm
Sure.
I like this segment.
But yeah, we're gonna
We should
add
reuse
this.
it season 3.
I've come across some of Gen Alphas, I think is what the next gen is
Mhm.
called. Some of their like slang is like, now that is like another level of like, yikes.
Wait, hold on a second. Who names these generations? They literally call themselves alpha?
I don't know. I just know we're like I'm part of Gen Z,
Yeah.
and the next one is
Yeah.
Gen whoever they want to call themselves.
I think this culture is done. We've now hit such a point of narcissism that the entire generation believes that they're
Mhm.
alpha. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, you can go down saying that you were the last great generation, Reilly. Congratulations.
Sure. So I started pole vault in my sophomore year of high school. And so that was a kind of beginner year. And then I kind of joke with myself that I peaked junior year, which is like, I feel like stereotypically like, oh, junior year is the worst year ever. But junior year for me was really great. And I think that's around the time where, you know, you're starting to do college applications and look at scholarships and job opportunities and what interests you career-wise. And so junior year, I think I was heavy set on I wanted to be a therapist, like family marriage therapist. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. That's going to be my choice. And I had a lot of teachers, you know, over the course of all 4 years of high school, but especially the last 2 years, where they were like, hey, you know, you would be a really good teacher or DCE, especially like 2 of my theology teachers who I really enjoyed having. And then definitely a bunch of like family members too. I have a couple cousins. One of them is a teacher and another one's a DCE and her husband's a DCE. And
by the way, DCE stands for Director of Christian Education, in case you didn't know that.
So, you know, lots of roots in church work and, you know.
And this
that
is
kind of stuff.
Lutheran High School, right? Where you're at, I don't think we mentioned that you went to Lou High.
Yeah, I did go to Lou High. Yep.
all
all
4
4
years?
years.
Okay.
Yep.
And so as you think back to some of the people who were like either said that to you or were like really significant during that period of your life as a high school student, who were the sort of mentor teachers who meant a lot to you, made a difference?
Yeah. So, I mean, all the teachers there are great. They are awesome, and they really take time to know their students, which I really appreciated. A few of them were Mr. Tavis. He was my junior theology teacher. I think, if I remember correctly, I don't. He was one of the first people there who was like, pulled me aside after class, and he was like, Reilly, you have a heart for God and a heart for, the knowledge in the Bible and stuff. And I think you'd be a really good teacher or DCE and sharing this and stuff. And I
What
was
do you
like,
think the first time you heard that? What was your reaction?
I was like, oh, thank you, I guess.
Did you believe him, or were you like, what?
I'm I didn't like not believe him, but it was like I'm not good at taking compliments. I'm trying to work on that, but it was just kind of a like, oh, thanks for, bringing that to my attention. Thanks for letting me know and stuff. And then I think the next teacher I remember saying something to the lines of was Mrs. Elmshauser. She was my English teacher for sophomore and senior year.
And side note, organist at our Father Lutheran Church.
And yes, a great organist here. And I remember one day she was like, you would be a really good teacher, or have you thought about teaching as an option for a career and stuff? And that one I was more like, not really. Like, I enjoyed school, I guess, but there were definitely things where I was like, school, So, and then Mrs. Lazel, I had her senior year for personal finance, and I had her as Lutheran used to do something called Thrive, which is like kind of a youth groupy type thing. And so she was my Thrive mentor, and we really connected and stuff. So.
So you had a series of adults in your life who saw something in you that you maybe didn't see in yourself yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're considering that, you were still pursuing family therapy and marriage therapy as you're finishing high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I applied for all the colleges I applied for their psych program. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Psychology. Sorry.
So you do that, but in the back of your mind, I think I remember you telling me this. You were starting to think about, you did tell me this because we talked about it. You were thinking maybe church work already at some point, your senior year or freshman year. Tell us the timeline.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, where can I pinpoint? And I remember, so I went to 2 youth gatherings. I went to the one in Minneapolis, and then the one most recently in Houston. And I remember in Minneapolis, the Concordia, Nebraska booth had like the iconic "Kiss Me, I'm Lutheran" button. And then they're like, here, you can fill out the separate form if you want to go into church work, and we'll give you another button. And me being like a freshman, like new upcoming freshman, and be like, I want all the buttons I can get. So I filled it out, and I was like, maybe this might be actually something I'm interested, but put it on the back burner. And so, years later, here we are.
Button. This is as simple as recruiting can be, as you just need to give out
all you need.
An extra
That's all
button.
it takes.
I had no idea.
No, but I also had a lot of DCEs in my life. At my old church where I grew up, I had Emily Schatz, and she was amazing. She was wonderful. And then here, Courtney Limmer, our beloved Courtney, she, helped a lot with making the transition really smooth and really really beneficial. Yeah.
So you're talking about a transition, but as I remember you telling me earlier, it wasn't really that smooth in the nuts in the day to day of it, right? So uh, you go to school that's not the school where you're headed to this fall. Your freshman year was where?
So my freshman year of college was at Hastings College in Nebraska.
So you're still pursuing family therapy.
Uh-huh.
How many days or weeks or months was it before you realized this isn't what I want to do anymore?
To be honest, it was like the first couple days on campus, after all the application, acceptance, move-in process. I got on campus, got moved in, and it could be a little bit of, like freshman homesickness, but the first couple days I was like, wow, this is not what I'm supposed to do.
How did you know that? How did you feel that way?
I think I just started thinking about maybe here's a little of the homesickness playing in, but I was thinking about everyone at home, and my mom put together this book that she had all the teachers sign for me. And I remember reading through it and seeing all their notes and stuff, and I was just like, there's too many people saying the same thing for it to be a coincidence.
That's what I recall. You asking Courtney, myself, when we sat down and had that we had a phone conversation in the fall of your freshman year.
Yes.
And I knew then that you had felt like you made a mistake. I didn't use those words because you don't want to say that when you're talking to somebody.
Yeah.
But you had the sense of I've made a mistake in a not life altering. My life is ruined now, but actually Nate used this phrase earlier when we were talking, kind of a Jonah moment.
Yeah.
Where God says, "Come, follow me, do this work," and you were kind of in the background going, "Yeah, that's cute, that's nice that these people are saying that, but I'm going to go this direction." And it's kind of like being in the belly of a whale your first couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, that's very accurate.
Going, oh, I think I'm supposed to follow Jesus in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely, I don't want to take credit for coining that pulling a Jonah thing, but yeah, definitely how you explained it is my junior, senior, even summer before freshman year, I was like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. This is what God wants me to do. That's what I thought. And I want this to be my decision. I don't want to go off what other people told me to do. I want to make my decision. Which is, something that God probably laughs at, because he's like, oh, you think you're better than my plans? Okay, let's see how this goes,
Just go to Hastings, Reilly, and find out.
But yeah.
Because God will, he will break us of it's kind of like a horse. I find a wild horse out in the wilderness. To break that horse down is difficult, because the horse is prideful and independent and stubborn. And the rancher, the cowboy, has to go through this process until finally the horse submits. And then in reality, the horse is actually more free in that sense than it was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely like a breaking down. And it was so necessary. And I grew so much, but it was not easy at all. I definitely would say. But yeah, so the hard parts were, classic freshmen starting to live on their own, kind of hard. So I definitely had to get used to that. And then also, especially first semester, I had a couple big things that were like 1, 2, the first was I got put in a class. They do like an automatic class registration for your first year, and I got put in this class, philosophy class, talking about sex and gender. And being at a liberal arts college was not something I grew up, learning. And the whole class was, breaking down what I had learned in high school, in elementary, whatever. And even though it was hard, and there were some days where, it was very much like a big group class discussion kind of class. So we had group discussions, class sessions all the time. And I really had to choose when I would want to just sit and listen and stay quiet. And when there are times where I was like, I cannot sit quiet in this, like, I have to say something and stand up for the truth, And those days were scary. Like, it was hard because I was kind of the only one who stood on that hill.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it's really hard, really scary. A lot of, emotional, spiritual, logical attacks. And I remember I read through my journal entries during that time just recently, and I was like, wow, I couldn't have made this, like, I couldn't have made it through this without having my faith to cling to. So,
yeah, I think that's what I was going to ask you. If somebody is listening and they're contemplating a college or university, or maybe they're already at a non-Christian university, what advice would you give them on how to stand tall, stand strong in your conviction and your faith? But also, I know you to be a very kind, loving person, so you can be firm, but you can also be loving. How do you get that?
It honestly, I mean, I'm not saying like Hastings is a bad place or anything. That's not, like, it was great in a lot of ways. But having it be more liberal leaning and drastically different from what I had grown up in, it really honestly solidified that I did believe in what I grew up in. It was, the last couple years of high school, I kind of started to fall into, what some would call a spiritual drought, just because I was like, we had chapel 3 times a week. I love it. We have theology class every day. I love it. What else? Like, I spent so much time in a Jesus-centered place all day. What more do I need than that? And in college, I discovered, group, like, having time with Christ in a group is great, and it's really beneficial because you can learn from other people. But at the same time, like, one-on-one time with just you and God is equally as important. And I really learned that in college when I didn't have great chapel. I had church once a week, and luckily, there's this thing called Crew on campus, which was a lot more familiar. It's not Lutheran, but it is more non-denominational, and it was a lot closer to what I grew up in. And so
that's like a Christian campus ministry.
Yes.
It's on secular campuses,
Many
public universities,
yeah.
as well as Christian universities, the one that you went to. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But having Crew and, being on my own in a foreign environment, I think were the 2 things that were, like, really pushed me even closer to God and got me out of that drought per se. But, yeah.
So I heard you say one-on-one time with the Lord, so studying His Word, prayer time.
Prayer time, devotions.
You also went to church.
I did go to church every week.
That's massive for anybody contemplating college, university.
Yep.
To set that pattern early.
Yeah, my mom always told me and my sister when she went to college, the first thing her mom did was drive around and look at the churches and look at the Lutheran churches and find one that fits before she left us off. So she did that with Abby, and then she did that with me. And
man, props to mom.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so I went to Faith Lutheran in Hastings, and they were really great, really. I remember after touring them, I got in the car and I was like, this feels like our Father. This feels like
Oh,
home.
cool. That's great.
So I'm hearing you say that you went through two really seismic shifts as a young adult. You did the journey of this is my vocation. Turns out this is my other. This is actually the real one.
Yeah.
And that path of independence and choosing, with God's help, who He's shaping you to be and what to do. That is huge.
Yeah.
That you did that. I'm also hearing you, Reilly, say I had to restack the deck in terms of rebuild the foundation of what I believe around other people who didn't believe what I believed, which is another seismic shift and transition to move from. There's lots of research that you may still be learning, and psychology says this is the way developmentally we all go through journeys like this as we emerge into adulthood. So I give you a lot of credit for doing both those things in a short period of time.
When we met, Reilly came in the office, and we, the pastors, DCs, we got together and we prayed over her. And one of the things that, I don't know who said it, you're going to be a better church worker to have these experiences outside what we call the Lutheran bubble.
Yeah.
Because we all went to Christian colleges. But it's really important that you understand how, quote unquote, real people live their lives.
For sure.
Because it's not everybody has the experience of working into a church and having the comfort here of shared belief, people who are on the same mission and vision. The folks that you're going to minister to are coming from that world, coming to church to be built up and to experience Jesus's grace and His love so that they can then go back out into the world.
Exactly.
With that said, let's transition to Concordia.
Yeah.
So God called you into church work. At least you're pretty confident of that.
Yeah.
Okay. DCE. When you start, what's that look like for you?
So I'm moving actually tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll be leaving bright and early tomorrow morning. And I'll move in. I'm sure there's a few like new student events and stuff. I'm hoping to go visit my friends in Hastings because, like I said, they're such a blessing. And so I want to keep those bonds up. And so yeah. And then another thing God blessed me with was the opportunity to do track, which is, an amazing experience that I get to keep being athletic.
Are you getting a scholarship? I know that's a personal question.
Yeah, I'm getting a scholarship. Yeah.
So they're helping pay for college, which is good.
Yeah, it's another blessing because, per NAIA rules, I have to redshirt because I transferred within the same conference.
Yeah.
So.
You getting any of that NIL money? Do you know what that is?
No.
Name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
It's like all the.
Oh, gotcha.
How college athletes get paid now.
Oh.
I'll be your agent. We'll work on some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Like the Our Father logo on your jersey or something. Yeah.
We'll give you a free coffee every time you come back.
And maybe a donut.
Maybe
depending on the
donut.
Sunday.
When does Trek start?
How it was last year, which I'm assuming Concordia probably operates on a similar level, is you do preseason, starting September-ish, and then going all the way through, I want to say November. And then you do indoor season, November through like the end of January, and then you do outdoor.
And Concordia now has a nice indoor track facility.
They have a beautiful indoor track.
Wasn't like that when I went. Back in
my day.
Back in my day,
Not
we ran
my day.
outside with no shoes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about DCE, Director of Christian Education. That's where you're leaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why DCE? Do you think?
DCE, I think, is just, I'm kind of hoping to work with middle school and high school age kids specifically, but overall, as a person who grew up in the church, having that faith from a young age was so important to me and so important to my mom. And so I think, you know, DCEs hold a special role in giving kids of all ages, you know, that faith at a young age. So then that'll be something to cling to later. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a massive shortage in our denomination of DCEs, of pastors. So it's something that's very much needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just interject to any parents or grandparents listening. What I heard Reilly say is that
I
it was.
love it, by the way, because you didn't say any kids because you just know there's nobody.
There's no
nobody
kids watching this.
yeah.
No.
Nobody 19 watching
You
this.
can watch this one
Yeah.
or listen to it.
So all you
Anyway.
oldies listening, what I heard Reilly say is people encouraged her. They saw a gift in her.
Mm-hmm.
That was my story. People told me from a young age I should be a pastor. I should work in the church. And I, like you, I said no for a long time. I know Nate has similar stories of that. So don't dismiss the power of positive affirmation. If you see a gift in someone, say it, because we're facing, at least in the pastoral world, about 10 years from now, half of our pastors in our synod, about 6,000 pastors now, 3,000 of those are not going to get replaced at the current rate.
Yeah.
Which means that when Nate and I and Scott retire from this place, there may not be a pastor to fill this position, right?
Yeah.
And we want that. We want that for our kids, our grandkids. So consider that. Encourage a young person if you see that gift in them.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Speaking of saying, Reilly, what if you could go back and tell a younger version of yourself something? What would you say to you? What advice would you give yourself?
I would honestly, you know, encourage younger me to really, you know, value one-on-one time with God, because I think that's where you transition from, you know, a childlike faith or faith with your parents to an actual relationship with you and God, which is what Christianity is all about. It's a relationship. It's not just a religion. And so I would say, you know, that one-on-one time is just like any of our like human relationships. You know, the best time to grow together is one-on-one time with each other. So I would definitely say that.
Do you have a verse that's like a favorite verse of yours or a stabilizing verse in your life?
So, well, my confirmation verse was 1 Corinthians 16.
It's okay. We don't know it either.
Reference. I don't.
Safe space.
It was like the stand firm in your faith. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed. You know, do everything in love. That is not word for word at all.
The Reilly Saline paraphrase.
But I remember most recently the verse that I found more was actually, you know, classic old Philippians 4:13, but it was reading it in context of when Paul is in prison and he's like, I know the secret to being content in all circumstances. And it's God strengthens me. And I think, you know, reading it in context, like you should with every verse in general, but reading that in context separate from its popular notation. And
it's like the most popular verse for athletes. It's on t-shirts. It's on, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hit a home run. Do a backflip, twirly. What do you, I don't know any gymnastics phrases, but
no, but yeah, I think like reading it in context gives a completely different message, because I think most people would say that verse is about, you know, I could do everything because God's behind me, stuff like that. And like, if you read it in context, it's, I can be content because God can empower me through these things. And so it's really the opposite message than what most people think it is. So
yeah.
Our culture's so funny. Have you seen that Keenan Peele skit where one of them wins a basket. He's like, they're pretend NBA players. They win the national champion or the national title. And the reporter's like, man, how'd you do it? He's like, I can do everything. I'm the greatest. He goes, if you just believe it, you can make it happen. And the guy's like, yeah, that's great. He goes, no, I'm serious. Kids out there, you are a car. Literally, you're a car.
Oh, no.
Get on the interstate and just drive because you can do anything. And the reporter's like, no, not really. He goes, yes, really. Kids, you can fly.
Oh,
Jump off a
no.
building today. You can do it if you just believe. Have you seen this? It ends with
imagining it.
It ends with
Yeah.
him on an interview, and he's like, "I would just like to sincerely apologize to the 12 families whose kids jumped off the."
my
It's
gosh.
really horrible, but it reminds me of that. That's the American mindset of like a verse like that.
Yeah.
Is apply it to yourself, and no matter what you're gonna do, God's gonna be with you. The danger, of course, is when it doesn't happen, and you're like, "Well, hold on a minute. I believe this verse." And I'm not a millionaire, or I didn't get into the college of my dream, or marry the person that I wanted to marry.
Mm-hmm.
We can so individualize it,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
which she picked up on, the wonderful theologian that she is.
One more question, not advice for you, but for somebody else.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody's listening to this and they're finishing high school and they're thinking about, man, maybe I could do that, but probably not because of all reasons, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What would you tell them if they had maybe a thought in the back of their head that they were burying, that they could be involved in some sort of church work vocation?
Mm-hmm. I would definitely say, listen to your family members, listen to your mentors, listen to the people who you value their opinion most. And if they're if what you say, if they see a gift in you, and they have told you maybe even multiple times, maybe that's a flag to reconsider. I know some people are very set and throughout their whole life, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And that's great. And, it's harder for people outside of, I would say, church work, calling, or, to be like, this is what God wants me to do. But I would encourage anyone to just, I'm not saying that you should bend all your decisions to whatever they say. But, listen to those around you, and also listen to what God tells you and God reveals to you through scripture, through devotions, through sermons,
Especially the sermons, right, Nate?
They're okay.
Especially.
They're okay.
But yeah, listen to things around you too, because I firmly believe, especially pertaining to big life decisions, that nothing is a coincidence. So, yeah.
Well, Reilly, it's been great to have you. And, you'll be already starting your first semester by the time our viewers and our listeners are hearing this episode. So we want you to know that we're going to be thinking about you and invite our viewers to be praying for you too.
Yeah.
And hope you
Yeah.
your first semester at Concordia, Nebraska gets off to a great start.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
thank you for having me. Yeah.
And say hi to all our people there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Us Lutherans are always connected somehow. Yep.
Thanks, Reilly.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, so what a cool conversation with Reilly. Youngest guest we've had so far.
Yeah.
I think you said that when we were talking to her. Takeaway for you.
I've known Reilly these last 4 years. So for me, it was like sitting down with a friend. I was impressed with a couple different things. I think there's some real practical advice for those families of ours who are considering university, college. They're wrapping up their senior year, going off. One thing I saw from her mom, Kate, intentionally looking for a church when they get on campus. I don't know if this stat is still good, but back when I was doing youth ministry, it was something like if a kid didn't get plugged into a campus ministry or a church going to a secular university in their first 3 weeks,
I've heard that too.
they were never going to get plugged in because you just get in a routine.
Yeah.
And so I heard that that's great advice. If you're a parent listening to this and your kid's about that age, go look at the campus churches around there, just as important as the school you're sending your kid off to. Don't assume that this kid's going to just be a Christian their entire life because you were. Way different world out there. Two, I appreciate Riley's advice. She talked about the real spiritual struggle of being in a place. She's away from her family. She's away from her friends, her network of support at our father. And she got plugged into a church. So there's that. She talked about her own personal devotional life. And then she found a couple core group of Christian friends. And that's how she navigated the difficulty of the situation she was in.
We need that whether we are student age, college, high school, or adults.
Yeah.
Right. Like, up, in, and out are those three rhythms. Our own time with Jesus and in worship, Christian friends, a missional community to belong to, and have people who know us and to live God's mission. That's just as true for a 19-year-old like Reilly as it is for you and for me.
Yeah.
We all need them.
I just had a great conversation with a really cool kid who is somewhat new to Christianity, was recently baptized, and she's been having a drought in her spiritual walk. Find out she doesn't have a church home, and that was what I encouraged her to do is, whether it's ours, we'd love for you to come here, but go find a church, a community where you're going to get that grace poured into you on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that, well, obviously you and I think this is the most important thing.
Yeah. It's right.
But every one of our guests in the last 3 years, that's been the key.
Yeah. 3 years.
Yeah. Third year.
Season 3. Here we are.
Congratulations.
We did it.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
But this is going to be the best one yet.
It is. Once Kendall pops in the sign behind us that you're going to see in future
soon.
episodes,
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make the difference.
I want to say one more thing. It was in closing. We talked to a young person about their professional church work vocation and career that they see ahead of them. And if you're listening to this and you've kind of been saying, well, that's kind of nice, that's interesting, but I'm not, that's not for me. I'm not that age, and I'm not in that kind of profession or calling. I want to point you to sermon series that we did here at Our Father after Easter in the spring of 24, about I think we called it God at Work or something like that.
About your vocation, though.
Yeah, about Christian vocation and being used by God in all of our callings, and how they're broken and how they're beautiful and the mess, but God's working through us in everything that we do, and the future of our work and the hope of our work, whether it's paid or unpaid. So anyway, I already preached those sermons, so I'm not going to do it right now. But I would really encourage you to check those out too, because those are really good. They're really fun to preach.
And it ties into our mission to help ordinary people know and share extraordinary life in Christ. That happens just as much through your vocation, whether that's being a stay-at-home parent or working in some place, as it does in our outward, like planned, organized activities, missional community, mission trip, whatever. You can be that, and we heard this a little bit from Reilly, in your everyday conversations. Be bold, but be kind. Be loving.
Yeah. And if you have a young person in your life, as you heard Reilly say, it's so important for her to have adults and mentors in her life speak into her life, to use that phrase, speak into. That's one of my pet peeves.
Just going to lean into that, Nate.
Lean into it, speak into it, but affirm and say, I see something in you that you may not see in yourself yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you do have a calling to do this kind of thing someday. So I want to thank all of you for watching this first episode on video. Right. And for more stories just like this one, go to ourfatherlutheran.net/stories.